Hi, as indicated, my name is David Burke. I'm currently the Commodore of the Britannia Yacht Club. I am a retired Army colonel, as was mentioned, and in fact discovered in conversation this evening so far that Ed knows one of our current members, one of our former members, in fact lives right beside Don Roger, and speaking with John Hutton, we discovered that we're both from Swift Current, Saskatchewan, which is actually a good thing. Plus, I understand that one of your normal members or regular members, Linda Newton, is also a sapper officer. Sitting at the table with Sue and Barb, Barb started talking and mentioned the story of Cecil, the very sad story of the killing of Cecil. It reminded me of a story I heard down in St. John's, Newfoundland. And one of the boys says to his friend, he says, "Do you know," he says, "I was watching a television show last night on Discovery Channel. Do you know that lions have sex 50 times a night?" And Maid looks at him and says, "No, I just joined the Rotary." In the maritime spirit, it's too American. I better put this into a context. I was told that whenever you speak to a Rotary Club, you have to have two hoary old jokes. So here comes the second. Two Americans driving on a tour through Nova Scotia stopped in Shubenacadie, small town, very pretty little town. They looked at the name and said, "How do you pronounce that?" So they pulled into a coffee shop, and while they were ordering their coffee, there was a blonde behind the counter and said to her, "How do you pronounce this place's name?" And she said, "Tim Hortons." This one slide, in fact, captures the key elements of the Britannia Yacht Club. We use the term "your cottage in the city" because for people that work in downtown Ottawa or live in Kanata or the west end of town, in 10 minutes you can be at your cottage. Fabulous sunsets, as you can see there, lots of activities and good friendship. Some of you may not know the location of the club. It's located at the north end of Britannia Village, adjacent to the Deschênes Rapids. Am I pushing the right button for the pointer?
It's kind of like the second one for the top.
Got it, okay. It's at the north end of the Britannia Village. That's Carling Avenue, Richmond Road, and the 417 down there, and the Deschênes Rapids. The Deschênes Rapids effectively helps to define the sailing area that we have for members of the club and those who use the river. The area extends from the Deschênes Rapids, which you can't go down, all the way west to the first dam on the river. And it is about 45 kilometers. So we have a fair distance to which to sail. But the largest area, the breadth of the area, Lac Deschênes, is just in here and adjacent to the Crystal Bay, and sails up there. And that's about 3 kilometers across, which is a nice size for many of the boats. There are 3 large sailing clubs on Lac Deschênes. The Nepean Sailing Club, which is on Carling. And most people know where that is because as you drive down Carling, you see a forest of masts and big city. And over on the far shore in Aylmer is the Club de Voile de Grande Rivière, which also has a number of large boats. There are other smaller sailing clubs, the Lac de Chêne Sailing Club, but it's dinghies, and out at Shirley's Bay there's a club as well. The Britannia Yacht Club is the oldest and, of course, in my opinion, the finest. The club was incorporated in 1887, and it has obviously a long history. 3 years ago, we celebrated the 125th anniversary of the Britannia Yacht Club. The BYC was established, as I said, in 1887 as the Britannia Boating Club. Canoes, sailboats, and even the occasional motor launch. 1887 was 20 years after Confederation. Ottawa was still kind of a rough town. The city effectively ended sort of by Hindenburg, Hindenburg, Mechanicsville area. And then there was a lot of open area between there and the Britannia piece of property. But the Britannia Beach, which I'm sure some of you know of, Britannia Beach was a very attractive place for people to come. And they there was a railway that was built out to Britannia Beach. It was a privately owned railway that brought tourists out to that area. Plus, many of the prominent families in the areas had cottages. In fact, some of the original cottages on Britannia Village are that original cottages. The original clubhouse was built in 1896 and still, in fact, is a very key part of the current club. If you notice the roof line here, you'll see the same roof line in the current club. Basically just kind of added things on. When they finished building this railway, they completed to the Britannia Beach area. The club, with the support of the owner of the railway, built a larger and fancier clubhouse on the pier at Britannia Beach. It was built in 1906 and was occupied and used until it was destroyed in a fire in 1918, losing all the records and things that mean something to the club. At one time, back in that period, there were 2,000 members of the club. So it was a very active social club, and people coming out from Ottawa on weekends, dances and what have you. But that particular club, of course, was lost in a fire in 1918, and the club moved back to its old premises. The clubhouse today, the added and modified, as I indicated, the roof line. You can see the same roof line that was built in 1896. So there is a degree of history to it, and each one of the areas has added on, expanded, and changed the shape of the club. But the activities that go on are much the same anyway. We have an active bar. Now hold on, that may sound awful, but from a social point of view, it is not at all. Known as the Dragon Lounge. And if you can feature there, that is in fact a Dragon sailboat. There used to be a class of boats known as a Dragon that was in, I think up until the 1956s, in the late 50s, was an Olympic class sailing yacht. And there were a number of them in the club, and we still have one that is actively sailed. But about 20 years ago, one of the old members who owned Magic Dragon, the boat here, owed the club some money, and he gave the club the boat. But the cost of fixing the boat would have been enormous. So instead, we cut the boat up and turned it into the bar. So that area right there is where the beer is poured and wine is served. And it is basically 3/4 of a Dragon class boat. It's quite unique. In fact, some years ago, my wife and I hosted a group of people, and it happened to include the former British High Commissioner. And I was standing and chatting with one of my friends, a fellow by the name of Larry, who had served in the Foreign Service and knew a lot of people. And Tony had gone into the bathroom, the High Commissioner, and he came out and he said, "Larry, have you seen that bar?" So we're very proud of our bar. It is unique and very, as I said, it's a very active place. The boardroom was decorated by the Fuller family, who provided a lot of the, quite frankly, financial support to the club over the years. And that recognizes Captain Tom Fuller, who was a member of the club from the 1930s until his death in 1996. The boardroom, very attractive room, very functional. A library of very interesting books. I must admit, it's mostly members who have read them and then donated the books, and they're virtually all on sailing, and so that makes sense to us. And then we have the upper deck. The upper deck is on the second floor of the club, and as you can see, a hardwood dance floor, which was actually, we were doing some work a few years ago, removed part of a raised area at one side and discovered this original hardwood underneath. So what we did was we in fact rebuilt the whole floor in hardwood. If you notice around the top, there are what are known as burgees. One of our Commodores, past Commodores, a fellow by the name of Appleton, was quite an artist. And he hand-painted burgees from different clubs around the world, primarily British, North American, and other Canadian clubs. And so we have a unique collection of burgees around the upper deck, and it provides very much a nautical atmosphere. The location, I mean, any club, as you know, requires revenue in order to operate. We rent that room out and provide weddings and corporate events, opportunities for corporate events using different facilities in the club. The Dragon Bar, however, is literally for members only. We have another bar up here on the second deck. BYC Harbor Development. You'll recognize the club and Castle Street coming down here, and there used to be a canal that was built by the Ottawa Electric Company back in 1901. They built it with the expectation of being able to harness the electricity flowing, or harness the power of the river flowing through that. After they finished constructing it, it was just going to cost too much, and they changed their mind. I don't think they had enough head of water. So that area, oops, I thought this was supposed to go back. There, okay. The area here, what was done is we dammed off that area right about there. I mentioned Tom Fuller. Fuller Construction is a very active major construction, and they dammed off the end of the canal area here and created what we call the basin, and that is a protected harbor and basin. At that time, that's all we had for the club, and in the 60s we added an inner harbor, and we did that by in fact tying together this, which was an island, another small island about there, and a third island right there, and tied them together to create the inner harbor. The harbor walls, there are more than a mile of them, were constructed by volunteer labor from the club. Concrete on site, kids wheeling wheelbarrows, pouring the concrete, piling the shale which had left over from the construction, and created the harbor walls. It was a major job. The harbor is, at this time of year, about 7.5 or 8 feet deep. However, in the springtime, it's more than 10 feet deep. As I'd indicated, we dammed it off, but we didn't dam it off completely. There are in fact 3 outlets where the water, so we in fact have got a current through the harbor, which keeps the harbor nice and clean, and provides a nice flow. So all the water in the harbors, just like the Lac des Champs. We have a total of 230 wet mooring slips, and they can be reconfigured. The slips are from 9 to 18 feet, which means that we can accommodate boats from 7 foot, something like a shark, through to 16 feet, something like a 143. A mix of Mediterranean-style moorings and floating finger docks. In addition, we have a fleet of dinghies in the junior club, and as well lasers, the large laser fleet, which are dry sailed. And there are some other Solings and other boats like that that are dry sailed and just put in the water for a race and taken out. The sailing, of course, is the big reason we exist. As indicated here, we run race programs for keelboats, dinghies, and sailboards. Some in conjunction with other clubs on the lake. For example, on Monday nights we have the women's series. And that's an opportunity for women to helm and crew boats and learn about racing. We share it with Nepean and Aylmer, and we have about 18 boats sailing, and each boat has got probably about 5 or 6 members, female members aboard. So it gives women an opportunity to get out and sail and not be intimidated. Now, I happen to loan my boat to one of the crews, and I'm permitted to be aboard because it's, quote, a coached boat, which means that I can coach them and say, okay, you're going to want to tack soon in order to make your next mark, things of that nature. But I'm also there in case they lose it, and I can then grab a hold of things, hopefully save it. Not been a big problem, but the as a coach, I'm not permitted to touch any lines, or touch the wheel. So therefore I tend to stand in the companionway and talk to the members of the crew and make recommendations. We've been sailing with them for about 4 years, and it works quite well. And as I said, it's in conjunction with the other clubs. Tuesday night we have PERF, which is Performance Handicap Racing Federation rules, so therefore a CNC 27 can race against a CNC 29 or in one case there's a CNC 115. In other words, boats of different size, different class can race, and then the handicapping is applied, which means that you can calculate and work out who won in fact. Wednesday nights we have dinghies and sailboards. In fact, if you drive along the sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, you'll see lots of boats out on the water, and most of them are probably racing. Wednesday nights, dinghies and sailboards, as I was saying, and on Thursday night we do a one design racing and jam. One design means that CNC 27s race against CNC 27s, 10s or 22s race against 10s or 22s, and we insist on a fleet of about 8 boats in order to provide some sense of competition. The CNC 27, which I've mentioned a number of times, I probably mentioned it because I own a CNC 27, and they're a great boat for this body of water. Good for weekending, and you can cruise. As I indicated, 45 kilometers of scenic cruising waters on the Ottawa River, directly accessible from the club. And it's a very popular cruising destinations is the club's private camping and picnic area at Baskins Beach. But I think the more popular one is Pinney's Point, and I'm sure you all know Pinney's Point. It's about 3 kilometers from here, and a great one. Well-protected area. You can drop a hook and be protected and be back in town in about 2 hours if you have to be. The highlight of the BYC's cruising year is Cruise Week. Early in July, a fleet of boats go up and rendezvous each evening. So we set the harbors that we're going to go to and make your own way up. Some boats go fast, leave early in the morning, others idle around, and others are very serious about it. But 5 o'clock is happy hour, and so the boats come together. We raft together, so you have 4 boats rafted together, and the other boats, people come by their dinghy over to the host boat and sit and enjoy a drink and share food. We have the international bocce tournament at Queon, so it's a fun activity and a great way for those that don't know the river to learn the river and where they can go. There is sailing for non-boat owners, in addition to what we call crewing opportunities, where people that don't have a boat, I need a crew of at least 5 in order to sail properly. Well, that means that I've got 4 other guys or 5 other people that don't own a boat that come and sail with me. So there's that, plus the what's known as the Sail Share Program with Advantage Boating, which is runs what they call the BYC Syndicate Program, where a group of people get together and own a boat. It means that we have an opportunity for people to get out and enjoy the sailing. That's at Pinney's Point, as I was saying, a nice place to drop hook. That's a CNC 27, I only missed. This is a much bigger boat. She's coming downriver from Moore Island back a couple years, and that's at Queon with where, as you can see, a number of the boats put in for the bocce tournament. I've already talked about About racing in general terms, one design, that as you can see, all of these boats are the same CNC 27s, and they're just getting a start on the race, which is why they're all at the same spot at the same time. I refer to this one as Light Airs. It was a race a couple of years ago, lovely sun setting in the background, and just a hint of a breath of air, and so you can sail. And these are the Sharks, and again a single class of boat. Major sailing events on the river. We annually host the National Capital Regatta, and this year it's the 8th and 9th of August, next weekend after next. And the Shark World's Championship, this is the third time Britannia has hosted the World Championship, and it's at the latter part of August. We'll get probably about 50 boats, and the Shark is a 24-foot boat with a crew of 3. Sails like stake, and it is a very popular boat. We have entries from Germany, Switzerland, the United States, Austria, and across Canada. But it's a big event, and is going to go on for a week at the club.
Is there a big prize? Is there a big prize?
I get to see Ottawa.
That's big.
No, there's no big prize. They'll get a trophy. In fact, we've had in the last 5 years, a boat from Britannia has been the World Championship. It's probably why they asked them to organize it again. A boat called Crazy Ivan, and 3 really talented sailors. They didn't win it last year, but they had the year before and the year before that over in Switzerland. It's quite something. We in the boating community are very proud of our sailors that do well compete. Name is gone, but Kirby, old Ottawa family, raced in Finns back in the 1950s, the Olympics, and again in '72, raced in the Olympics. He is best known for having designed the laser sailboat, which now has got more than 250,000 lasers. They're a small single-handed sailboat, and very popular among the racers, and it can be used by people up at a cottage. Very simple in design. I used to race a laser, so I feel quite comfortable with it, but this was many years ago. My sail number was 28414. The sail numbers now on the boats we have at the club are 247932. So 250,000, and I was part of the first 25,000 or first 28,000.
Are there locks to get around the Deschênes Rapids?
No.
Then the people that come from around the world, how do they transport their boat to the Britannia Yacht Club?
Oh, well, in this case, for example, somebody from Toronto wants to come up and race in the put it on the back of the truck. You raise a very good point. One of the problems we're basically trapped. Like this thing goes, we have one member who has September 26th. He's taken the mast off, and his boat is currently going in Rideau Lake there, and he cruised up and down the Rideau Canal. But again, put the boat there, we have to truck it from here to someplace in the middle of the water. The water has got to be deep enough to permit you to go through. The Rideau Canal, I think, is about 6 foot. So depending on the size of the boat, whether or not you can get into the canal. But once you're into the Ottawa River, from Ottawa, you can in fact go your way down and get into the Lac des Deux-Montagnes and the St. Lawrence Seaway. And St. Lawrence, you can either then go up to Thousand Islands or down to Montreal. So you can escape Ottawa, but not easily.
But as Bob said, like the Germans come here, or the Australians, do they get boats here, or do they?
We do provide boats for them. The Austrian and one of the owners of the club will make his boat available. And again, all these sharks are essentially the same boat. Many people that do something like that and they race competitively, they will bring their own sails with them. Because a new tight set of sails will work far better than something that's old and blown out. Tennis. The club, there's been tennis played at the BYC since 1926. As indicated there, organized play, lessons provided to members, and we have 4 plexi paved courts, so they're not as soft as a clay court or a grass court, but they're good courts, very attractive facility, and quite a popular event. The club has got lots of social and entertainment. I think you've probably guessed that already, that part of this is just kind of fun. We have year-round entertainment. We've got a very qualified, I know this doesn't sound unusual, but a British chef, and produces some very fine food. Of course, when we cater for weddings and things like that, he runs the catering for it. During the sailing season, as indicated there, we've got regular Friday night entertainment. We sit out and watch the sunset and listen to some music. During the off season, we'll have special events. Once a month, we'll have some very active party. We do a Wednesday movie night, which, you know, somebody selects, the group that does it selects the movie, advertises the movie, and people come in and have dinner and watch the movie. And we have, as indicated there, Friday evening in the Dragon Lounge. So in the off season, we're only open on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. And when we have an event on a Saturday, we'll have open it up. We've got what they call a Sunday Breakfast Club, which is organized by volunteers in the club, and they cook the bacon and eggs, and prices are very reasonable, $6 for 2 eggs and some bacon, some toast and coffee, and it keeps the community together during the miserable long winters that we have here. We have active youth programs in sailing, tennis, summer camps, which are currently on. We have a swimming area immediately off the clubhouse. And we have what we refer to as the junior clubhouse, which is where they do the sailing lessons, and it's on the other side of the harbor, away from the main clubhouse. It works well because no alcohol is served over there, and it's an opportunity for the kids to be kids over there, and they do things like play volleyball and learn how to sail. Some of the dinghies you see here, that tall one there is a laser I was talking about. These small ones are for kids that are kind of 8 years old and up to about 12 years of age. And those are optimists. They're a little pram and a great way for a child to learn how to sail, because sailing a boat that big is just the same as learning how to sail a bigger boat. In fact, I learned how to sail in Saskatchewan on Clearwater Lake in a boat that was very similar to one of these, gaff rig. My father made it from a plan from, I think, Popular Mechanics or something like that. And sort of required 2 pieces of plywood and some fiberglass and a mast, and it was good. And obviously, I took to sailing. We have a website. It's filled with information about the club and club activities. It is, I think, user-friendly and easy to navigate. Lots of good information. And as indicated there, www.byc.ca. So it's an easy one to remember. And that's our cottage in the city. Great location, marvelous sunsets, and a lot of good comradeship and enjoyable. John,
these boats are moderately expensive. Could you describe a little bit of the winterization of these vehicles? I mean, you must have a routine that you have to go through during the winter. They can't stay in the water area in the winter.
If you see the areas back in here, during the winter, all the boats are taken out and parked on the harbor. We have a 12,000-pound crane which can handle most of the boats in the club. There are probably 18 boats that are just too heavy for that, and we bring in a 70-ton crane from Regional Cranes. It pulls them up, puts them on a cradle, and then we have a hydraulic trailer system that moves them into them. So during the winter, they're very neatly parked in rows. Your motors, you have to winterize them by draining all of the fluids, putting in some antifreeze, and looking after it. I cover mine with a very large tarpaulin, and then in spring, take it off again and get her in the water. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about memberships?
Say again?
Membership.
What about membership?
Yeah, everything like how to become a member.
Oh, well, as a matter of fact, funny you should mention that.
He just happens to have this.
The membership is very easy and straightforward. Our accountant Mark Walton handles the membership, but the information about the club itself is here in this very comprehensive brochure, and indicates costs at the present time. I mean, the costs are guaranteed to go up. Get it well, it's right, but it's we have a range of memberships. We have people that don't have a boat and aren't interested in the boat. They look at it as a social opportunity. We have other members who are boaters, and they never darken the doors of the clubhouse because they're not interested in that social aspect. They're down on their boat every weekend, they're upriver. And then we have the very active racers whom I referred to. And we've got the ones that are really focused on tennis. But the whole group together plays well together. Good for families. The associate memberships are obviously less expensive than a full voting membership. And if you're going to keep a boat on the water, you have to have a full voting membership. But if you're just a social membership, it's a social membership. I can leave a couple of copies. I'll leave you 8 copies of this if you're interested. And are there any questions?
Yeah, I just noticed that the chain rapids there, and how close they are to your clubhouse. Are they, over the years, are they a risk to your members, or is it something that?
Well, they're a risk. They're a risk only if you foolishly go too close. You can see there are the rapids there. There are about 4, maybe 5 large white markers, spar markers, warning people about getting close to the rapids. In the actual river itself, the current's only about 1 knot. And it varies everywhere across it. I mean, out in the center at some point you have 0 current because the current is mostly felt where it's shallow and on the shoreline. But it's not a big issue. If somebody does get into that area there, they could be in trouble if they don't have a motor. In fact, the police, the city of Ottawa police, keep a boat there, and the fire rescue keeps a boat at the club. And if there's a call because somebody has managed to go over the falls or is getting close to it, or boats, these guys arrive with sirens wailing and leap into their boat and get dressed up in wetsuits and hard hats. These guys are really something to watch. But every year, I think, certainly I don't know of any of our club members that have died, but every year there are at least 2 deaths at over the Shen Rapids. Primarily because people have done something foolish. Like not wearing a life jacket, not knowing how to swim. Last year we had 2 young Chinese boys who took a dinghy. They bought one of those little floating things they bought at some store and took off from Britannia Beach, not knowing about the rapids. And down there, it took 3 months before they found the second body. I mean, it's you can read about it. You read about it in the Citizen, and it's a very unfortunate thing. But a lot of people just don't know the challenge that the river provides.
Motorization. You've got a lot of boats in the club. What percentage of them would be motorized?
I'm going to estimate about 8 to 10% are motorboats with, and we have some motorboats that vary in size from sort of a 22 footer with an outboard motor on it through to I suppose the biggest one is a Chris Craft 32. And oh, hold on, there's one that's much larger, owned by the Fuller family, which I don't think would fit in this room.
But sailboats that can maneuver when they're large need motors, do they not?
Oh, we have motors. Yes.
What percentage of the sailboats are motorized?
Oh, percentage of the sailboats?
Right. Roughly.
For keel boats, probably 99% of them. The soling, for example, doesn't have a motor, and so somebody that's racing a soling usually gets towed out into the lake. But for sailboats, for keel boats, more than it's 99.9% have got a motor, either an outboard or an inboard motor. For dinghies, probably 99.9% don't have a motor, and so a laser, you'd never be able to mount a laser on or a motor on a laser.
Can I ask one other question? I noticed that somebody in the city of Ottawa, in fact, John Fullerton, our president, was on it. They run a tour down the Ottawa River, wilderness tours.
Oh, yes.
Now, does that go through the rapids, or where does it
Yes.
start? How does that work?
In fact, we have a very close relationship with Wilderness Tours because they store their rafts and facilities right there at the end of our harbor. That way it provides security for them, so after the tours they then come back and drop all of this stuff off. they take it out early in the morning over to Britannia Beach from where they operate. And Wilderness Tours, big blue floating boats. One crew member who is at the stern with a steering oar, and then the people that pay $45 to go for a ride in the boat, they get a paddle and they provide the power. And they come from Britannia Beach, which is about over here, down across, and then they go down through these rapids, and they go all the way down to, I think it's called Chaudière Island, just underneath Parliament Hill, as a matter of fact. And they have about 3 different rapids that they go through, and they stop at one place where they have a wall, a rock wall that's just about as height of this ceiling, and they get to clamber up and then jump down into it. Well, oh, pardon me.
I had a question about your regatta, the time you said where you tether all the boats together and you get together at 5 o'clock and have your meal and drinks. The rules about drinking on boats as long as they're tethered?
Cruising yachts, boats that have got heads, in other words, a toilet system,
right,
and have got cooking facilities. Once you are anchored where you are going to be, it becomes your home.
Okay.
So that's why, I say 5 o'clock. We don't go out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and guzzle gins and tonic. That's just on in the cruising week. You'll see boats out on the water and using it, but the laws are very specific regarding it. They treat boats as a motor vehicle. I'm not sure whether it's under the Motor Vehicle Act, but I know they can arrest somebody if they have open alcohol in a boat when they're operating the boat. Just as an observation, the police tend to pay more attention to guys that are racing around in fast power boats than they do to sailors. Good. Well, anyway, thank you very much.